What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews. And today I am joined by actor, musician, and fellow podcaster and friend, Mr. Michael Spedden. How are you today, sir?
How are you? Great to finally catch up with you and get a chance to talk to you and everything. On the Scene Snobs here. The Scene Snobs. I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to our conversation for quite a bit now. We kind of scheduled it, with getting to meet some of the folks we've met lately. Our friend Steve Joyner has had us like Lucy in the Candy Factory with guests, and we thank him for that. And I got a chance to talk to you now, so great.
Yes, we have been. We've been online. We've been going back and forth trying to schedule something, and it's been crazy for both of us. I see we're always putting out content, and it's great right now. How is your? I have to ask, just from the podcasting side, how has your October been? Because mine has just been flooded and crazy. I don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been booked like crazy. I've got 3 today. You're the first of 3.
Nice.
Actually, I'm on your show, but then I've got 2 on my show, and then we've got to schedule you, my friend, too. So we've got to get that on the books. And then gosh, next week I'm full. And when I say full, I'm talking 4 nights of recording. I've gone way over on my allowance for the site that hosts my podcast, so I've been paying those extra bandwidth fees lately. Yeah. But you know what? It's good. It's good. It's good to be busy. It's good to have work. It's good to have people to interview, and it's good to have people listening. It's good to give people some entertainment and escape from all the craziness on the news and being cooped up with COVID and, just this year being kind of nuts. So I hope I'm providing something that people can kind of escape and enjoy themselves with,
Yes, and I want to mention, I want everybody to know to go check out your show. It's Fowl Players Radio.
Yes, thank you.
You do a fantastic job. You've had a lot of interviews lately, and I really enjoy. I've said it before, but I want to say it again. Like, just how natural it seems, which I think is a fun part of doing interviews and listening to interviews from my perspective. I always like that type of style of just being able to be more natural, kind of get along with the people you're talking to. Right. I think that makes good radio.
Right.
And now, would you say that? How long have you been hosting, if you will?
Well, I started this venture, Fowl Players Radio, in the spring of 2018, and nice. From 2016 until the beginning of 2018, I was a co-host with somebody else who decided to stop showing up and being a part of it. And it wasn't such a bad thing. See, the thing was that I was like 15 years older than those guys. And, my idea of an entertaining guest and their idea of an entertaining guest were 2 different worlds apart. The people that I have on my show, like the Steve Stoliers and the Scotty Schwartzes, and those folks are people that I remember. For people in their age group, they're like, who? And it's not going to mean anything to them. And then again, there were a lot of people that they brought on who I was gracious to and was interested to hear about, but it didn't really. It was just too far of a too many ends of the spectrum there, really. So that kind of dissolved, and I wanted to keep doing my own show. And having people on, it really started out as something that I wanted to do just in the Maryland and DC area where I'm from. Because there are a lot of people around that are, had been on the news around here forever that have interesting stories. A lot of people live in this area that were on The Wire and on Homicide and The Veep and the House of Cards, and a lot of good, independent films were going on here for quite a while. ID Discovery did a lot of filming here. Then there were people from years ago when we had a lot more independent television in Baltimore, where we had kids show hosts and a lot of. If you ever seen the Weird Al Yankovic movie, it was either called UHF or VHF. I can't remember.
UHF. Yeah. I love that movie.
Before, like the CW and Fox came along in the 80s, we had channels that were just like that. Maybe just a handful of people worked there, and they came up with all the programming. And there was a gentleman by the name of Captain Chesapeake who was on the air here for, close to 30 years. I interviewed his daughter. He's since passed, but she had a lot of great stories of basically him. And that was his station. Not only was he Captain Chesapeake, he was the ghost host for the horror movies at night.
Nice.
And then there was like maybe two other people that did the news, and they had their camera crews, and then they had some puppeteers for the kids shows and that sort of thing. And then actually one of my folks in my murder mystery group was a puppeteer on a different station that had shows like that as well, where the kids shows were kind of put together by, like a lot of them had Bozo the Clown franchises, and they would have the guy who was Bozo the Clown, and then also, Captain this or Mr. This. You had the kids shows and stuff. So I started off kind of wanting to do that, and then I crossed paths with our friend Steve Joyner, and he's introduced me to people like you, and then the folks like some folks that I've been interviewing lately, and it's been really great, just to get to meet people like you, fellow podcasters, and learning from them and getting to know people and making friends, and getting to know some of these celebrities and putting out a good show. And this has just been a blast. I'm sure you really enjoy pod. You wouldn't be doing it if it sucked, right?
Yeah, actually, we belong to the same group with the podcasting, Steve Joyner's group, and it's always fun when we're always interacting and talking, because it's like a big community, and I just really enjoy it. And I get a lot of good advice from everybody, yourself included, like, when you guys are posting. And I try to help in any way I can. I don't know how much I do, but I'm happy to just be a part of it and read everything.
I feel like, too, that I'm getting a lot of advice from other people that are a little more experienced at it, and know a little bit more about the platforms to put it on, how to get listeners, and how to get your show a little more well known. That's been a big help to me. And it's been really great, and everybody's just been very helpful and very kind and very friendly, and nobody looks at you like, you idiot, you don't know how to do that. They'll take you aside and show you how to do things. And
Well, now you're an actor. You run your own murder mystery group.
I do. Yeah.
You've been on shows like Gotham. You've been on shows Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and more. I mean, man, you've got a pretty cool resume from everything I'm reading. And getting into podcasting, and you were a musician for a long time. You still are. You still play. So you're out there. You do the live shows. You have that experience. How did you find all of that experience in those mediums helped you maybe into podcasting? Like, what did you maybe learn or bring to it?
It helps me know how to talk to people, because I can kind of relate to their experiences, because a lot of my guests are in bands. And especially, I've been playing around here since the 80s, and a lot of these folks are people that I've known for over 30 years, and we played a lot of the same clubs, and we can kind of talk about experiences at this club and that nightclub, and you remember this show, do you remember that show, and what it's like being a musician on that end, and dealing with personalities and keeping a band together, and then also with acting, asking about things that, because I know what it's like to act. I've done theater, and I've done my own murder mystery group, and then been on television, and then the movie, and done some more other local films as well, things that were filmed locally to they weren't in theaters coast to coast or anything like that. They were kind of like things that went right to DVD, but just having similar experiences and knowing how to talk to people is really, that's how it's really helped me make a podcast, because I'm not like completely in the dark when it comes to what kinds of questions to ask and what kinds of experiences people would like to talk about.
Nice. Well, so I love that. What now? Taking that too, and because it does feel like, I mean, you're right. Like I can see that. I've listened to your show, so like, again, I think that adds to that natural vibe I was talking about. You kind of hold, like, you can carry conversation if you need to, but you also know when to kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, reel it in and let your guests talk.
Yeah. Right.
Now,
I have, well, go ahead.
I
have
wanted to
certain
associate.
things.
I
Okay,
wanted
we're
to
stepping
associate
on
it a little. Oh, sorry. I think
we were stepping on
um,
each other.
sorry about that. Yeah. I just need to know
That's
when to shut
okay.
up sometimes.
That's all
Well, no,
right.
I wanted to associate it with the murder mystery because you do a lot with that.
Mm-hmm.
You do a lot of interaction with guests, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And kind of guiding them along. I would love to know your experience there and just if you can explain a little bit more about how that works.
Okay, yeah, our murder mystery shows. I bought my murder mystery company from a gentleman by the name of Herb Otter. He ran Otter Productions, oh God, for about 25 years or so. And then he decided he wanted to go do some other things, and he sold me the company. Actually, he sold half of it to me and half of it to another actress by the name of Jill Redding. You might know Jill as Dolores the barmaid from The Wire in season 2. The lady said, "Quit pulling out your, you know what, in here." So she got a couple of the venues, and I got a couple of the venues, and I did learn because I was a member of the troupe for about 2 seasons before Herb decided that he wanted to go do other things, and um, you really do get to learn because the shows are all improv. We have a storyline, but we don't have scripts. And the thing is, we know what works and what doesn't work. So we've done a lot of these shows numerous times. We're out there, and we normally do these on boats, like river boats with a big paddle in the back, where you go on and have an evening dinner cruise, and we're the entertainment, or on a train, like the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. And there's other trains we've done it on. Sometimes we do corporate events, or we did a Christmas party for a company last year, and we did a fundraiser, like a fundraising gala for, it was an organization called Chesapeake Feline Association, that they help stray animals, and they help place animals in homes, and so those things, we were breaking the fourth wall constantly. And the thing is like, there's not really a stage. When we go out and start performing, we're talking to each other across tables, and we're working the room back and forth, and we're keeping ourselves parallel and everything. But people call out all the time, especially when they've had a few drinks in them, and we're always having to sometimes we have to kind of deflect that. Sometimes if somebody, if one person comes out, and sometimes they have an aside like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do about this situation?" And they have to say, "Well, geez." Or sometimes, I'm usually the cop. And if there's a costume change or something that has to take place off stage, I come out and I banter with the folks. I say, "Has anybody seen anything strange lately? Is there anything that you've noticed? Anything that I need to be aware of?" And they'll raise their hands, and they'll say, "Oh, well, I saw him do this, and he said this." Or sometimes they say something that, like, "No way did it happen." I'm like, "What show are you watching, lady?" So we are we but we break the fourth wall all the time, especially towards the end when we do the presentation. There we have the murder, we have the presentation of evidence, we have the questioning of the suspects, and people are always raising their hands, and "I think he did it." "Well, why do you think he did it?" "Because he looks guilty." Well, that always stands up in court. Our prisons are full of people that look guilty, or they get to present things that they saw, because throughout the show we're always dropping hints and clues, and people, if you're paying it, and people take their programs and unfold them, and they're writing notes, and they've got all these diagrams written here, and this, and they have like this person's name, and they have like copious notes under that. It's amazing as serious as some of these people take it. But we're always breaking the fourth wall. Sometimes you got to be quick, because sometimes people will try to zing in. You can zing them back. You don't want to take it too far and really upset somebody. But we really have a good time with it. The people laugh, and people do follow up with us too. We have our contact information in the program. So we have had people say, hey, look, we loved you on the train. We'd love to have you do our Christmas party or our gala. Or we saw you here and we'd love to have you come here. Or would you like to come to our venue? So it's been something that's been wonderful. And I have got to say I've been blessed with the people I've had with me. A lot of the people that were with, Otter Productions stayed on. And then I was able to bring in some more folks because I got some new rooms. And these were people that I had done theater with or done some filming with. And I have to say, I've just been very, very lucky to not have problems with anybody. Everybody gets along well. Everybody works hard for me. They take pride in what they're doing. And I have to say, it's been a blessing. And that's what I named my podcast after. Our troupe is called the Fowl Players of Perryville. And it's spelled F-O-W-L because Perryville is the town I live in Maryland. It's in Cecil County, and it's on the Susquehanna River. And the Susquehanna River leads right out to the bay. And we're known for our various types of waterfowl. We have osprey and bald eagle and herons and I guess a zillion types of ducks and geese and loons and coots and everything else along the river. So we named it the Fowl Players of Perryville. And then Fowl Players Radio is where I got the podcast name. And and we also did Polar Express last year on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. That was 5 weekends, and that was a crazy schedule. That was about 10 shows a weekend and a cast of about 40. But we had a lot of fun, and that turned out to be successful. Unfortunately, COVID put the nip on that this year. But, hey, there's always next year, right?
I know, it's a shame too, because I mean, stuff like that. I've been fortunate enough to get to a couple of murder mystery dinners, and they're so much fun. And I can tell just by the way you're describing it, you're definitely one of the fun ones because it's that enthusiasm. You have to have that enthusiasm behind any type of live performance, I think. And just the way you talk about it.
Yeah, it's always a silly scenario. It's always an absurd death. And we make our deaths extra bloody to kind of leave with the comic value of it as well. We have one where somebody dies with a tennis racket through the chest. Another one with those like 70s lawn darts in the head. So and of course, the death is always over dramatic and oh my God, help. And then when someone takes a picture, we stop and we're like, and oh God, help. And then somebody else takes a picture and we're like, so, we have a lot of fun with it. People laugh and have a good time. And, and when we see people come again and again and again, months later,
Oh, I have to imagine. I don't know why not. Like, I mean, it's a fun event to get out to. Dinner and a show,
and we enjoy talking to folks too,
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, because you're always going to meet all walks of life especially in that. I always felt like the audiences for something like that, an improvisational type of environment, you get a lot of fun people in the audience.
Oh, yeah,
they're into it. They want to play it. Mm-hmm. I know when I go, you were saying writing notes down. I know when I've been, I should say, I am that way. I'm playing Clue as I go. I'm trying to figure it out. And like with my wife or somebody who's talking to me, I'm just like, no, I'm busy. I'm trying to solve a murder here. You just get super into it. So it's a very cool. I've always loved it. I've had some friends when I lived in Los Angeles. They did a murder mystery dinner out there, and it just always seemed like a very fun thing.
It really is. It really is.
But so with that, and I want to kind of go back towards talking about Fowl Players Radio. How you started in 2018. I know you had a partner, and trust me, I understand that. I'm actually celebrating my 1 year this week, and thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I had a partner, co-host with me on the show for 2 weeks, and then I didn't hear from him again until like recently.
Right.
Until he reached back out to me. And I'm just like, where'd you go? I thought you fell into a void or something. And I was like, I kept going with it. So taking that and like having partners, and then they left. Did you take it into a different direction? I know you said with guests it was a little different, but like for you, what was your reaction to where did you want to take it for you personally?
I wanted it to be more of an oral history of entertainment in the Mid-Atlantic region.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to some of the people that have been around for a while. I mean, some of my earlier guests were people that had been on the news and on the radio for 50 years in the Baltimore area. Old television people, and also too to kind of help out some nonprofits like the Maryland Center for the Arts, to give them sort of another outlet, a free outlet where they could talk about what they do and some plugs to make some money for those organizations, and then just anybody else around too who was doing something fun and interesting and neat that I thought that could use a little bit of promotion. Some local artists, some local some local authors, and that kind of thing. And I also, and there were some people that, you wouldn't have known it, but they had some, like pretty well known and well respected books out. I had one fella who I had performed with as an actor who had written books about Frankenstein and all the old Universal movies from the 30s. And he had actually met the families of like Bela Lugosi, this Greg Mank, who's going to be a guest a little bit later this month. He's done, books on those types of things. And I thought his story was fascinating, and I thought it would be interesting for other people to know. And then too, that's part of history as well. It's part of the history in Maryland, with a lot of the people that I started speaking with. They've been part of the entertainment and pop culture in Maryland for many years. And just to let people know, hey, this stuff's going on around us and these people are out there. Give it a listen and check it out. I wasn't doing as much with current things, and on my show too, I don't get into politics, sex, or religion either. I'm not, I don't use this as a platform to get on a soapbox. I kind of like to use my show as an escape, somewhere where people go, because the news is just miserable every day. People are miserable every day, and this is supposed to be a place to go to clear your mind and hear something fun and interesting and relax. So that's kind of the direction I like to keep my show in, doing that kind of thing.
That's a great way to do it too. I think, especially content-wise, in 2020.
Yeah.
What we need is more entertainment. And God knows the studios aren't giving it to us, so we got to do the best we can with what we got. That's fantastic. And so you're about 2.5 years, right? So 2018, 2020, yeah. So 2.5 years you're in. I'm sure you've had some really exciting guests, and I want to talk about some of your favorites. So what for you, like going forward though, like is there any, I know with Steve, like his guests are kind of all over the country. Have you expanded that cultural reach, I should say, outside of Baltimore with the show now? Because and you're trying to keep the same the same theme, if you will, but like are you reaching out more for outside of Baltimore area?
Yeah, I have been a little bit, because I have professional management. In 2018, I guess pretty much around the time I started my new podcast, Fowl Players Radio, I was also signed by CPM Talent Management out of New Jersey, and they're in Philly and New York. And so I've had my manager send me some fellow people that are in the same agency as me as guests, and a lot of them are based in New York or Philadelphia. And then I've met some people on Facebook. I just happen to be looking at people you may know, And sometimes you get that feed on Facebook, people you may know. And I see actors and comedians, and if they look like they're funny or interesting, or a filmmaker, and I'll look up IMDb, and if it looks like their movies are good or something, I will, you know, just say, hey, how are you? I'm a podcaster. If you'd like to talk about your movies or something, let me know and I'll have you on. And I've met some other people from other parts of the country doing that. A fellow by the name of DeWitt Jones, who's a director from Atlanta. And God, that interview went on for a long time because I think we were in the same age group and we liked a lot of the same things. As far as like the same types of movies and the same types of music. And we had a lot of the same opinions on movies and music over the years. So that ended up being a really good guest. And then, there's been some other people that I know that have, that did live here at one time. And I knew them as an entertainer here, but they've moved on to other parts of the country. So I've had them on as well. So yeah, it has been, not only, through the people I've met with Steve, but, just doing my own research and looking around and networking and mingling and, saying hello and reaching out. I have expanded my, my guest base, outside of the original area that I had intended.
Nice. Some of, I don't want to say favorites because I think we all enjoy, like everybody who comes on the show, there's always a personal experience, but maybe some interviews you've had or guests that kind of stood out to you or gave you
well, Larry Hankin was a hoot. I really liked him because, I watched so much of his things when I was growing up. Or in my early 20s and everything. And I also really like Jack O'Halloran. He was a great one. He played Non in Superman, mostly Superman 2. He was in Superman 1 for a little bit, but he had a lot more time in 2. And let me see, gosh, I've had, I've got Steve Stoliar, because I used to love Groucho Marx when I was a kid, and still now too. I love Groucho Marx and the Marx Brothers. He was a very interesting interview. I've had, gosh, let me see, Greg Mank, who told me all of his stories about meeting Bela Lugosi's family and interviewing them, and Boris Karloff's family. And he told me some great stories about, just meeting them and finding out, about what went on behind the scenes, filming those old monster movies. Oh gosh, who else have I had? I had a good time with Suze Lanier the other week. Suze Lanier was in The Hills Have Eyes, with Big Michael Berryman, she was also, the thing I thought that was really the most interesting about her was that she was originally Chrissy in the pilot for Three's Company instead of Suzanne Summers.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Some of the other ones that I've had on, a band from this area called Red Dye Number 9 was a lot of fun. We used to play with them back in the 80s, and now they're back and writing some new material and planning on putting out another release soon. Another fun one that I've had on quite a bit is Kim Yates from Kim's Crypt. She was somebody I knew back in my hair band days too, because she plays in a band called Scarlet Angel. But for the past, almost 30 years now, she's had haunted houses. And they've started from doing them in her house all the way to having a place in Pennsylvania, in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania, 62 acres, 6 attractions. And she's got dozens of people that work for her every year. And I actually worked for her for 2 seasons in the haunt. I was, I was a roamer, I would kind of roam from one to another and follow people through the haunts and, do all kinds of things like that. But she has been doing this for a long time. And she has a great haunt, and she's a hoot. Like I told you, she is a real hoot as a guest, because we reminisced a lot about a lot of stories from the hairband days. But then she would talk about things that were going on in the haunt, like new attractions that she was adding. And it always ends up being a really good time with her. Let me see. Gosh, there's just so many I could talk about here. A lot of
Does, and
fun.
it leaves like a nice feeling too. Like I said, that personal experience you get from everybody, it's always a good memory, I bet.
Uh-huh.
Well, I actually I want to ask because you talk about the hair metal bands back in the day that you played.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
we just recently lost Eddie Van Halen. You know,
Yeah.
was he an influence to you? I mean, he's one of the greatest guitarists of all time. You know, and I know you play. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I'm a bass player. In the
oh, you're a
in the
bass.
electric bands I was in, I was a bass player, and I do play acoustic guitar, but I'm not a lead player. Of course, I always loved Van Halen. You know, both and I didn't really. It didn't matter to me. Some people are particular; they're either Sam guys or Dave guys. I liked them both. You know, I thought both of them.
Yeah.
You know, when either one of them was in the band, they both put out quality material. Now, whether the band should have stayed named Van Halen after Roth left because of the change in sound is a debate. But yeah, I loved both versions of that band. You know, both the Sammy and the Dave stuff. And you know, that was like my seventh grade. You know, when MTV first came out. Actually, when I was in eighth, MTV first came out in '81. And we used to watch all the videos, and we used to love the Van Halen videos because a lot of them were from a live concert in Oakland that they would put on there, like Unchained and So This Is Love. And we always thought that was cool watching Van Halen videos back then. Van Halen didn't really influence my songwriting or anything that we wrote in those days, but they were definitely somebody that I always used to love to listen to.
Mhm. Well, that's yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's what I wanted to ask because I always like to just see like as a musician. I'm not a musician, in
Hmm.
no way,
Hmm.
shape, or form. I love music, of course, just like
Right.
everybody, but I hold no musical talent whatsoever. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
nice to talk to musicians and kind of get that feel. Like I know for me, having been a filmmaker and doing this, and there's a lot of inspiration there in the world of movies for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I go back to, but that's why I do when I talk to musical minds. I like to see how everybody feels like about certain things. Like I love Van Halen, but I can't talk about them in a way of in a professional way. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right. Yeah, when I was doing the hair bands in the '80s, the bands that were more of an inspiration to me were kind of like the older bands, and I was more influenced and inspired by the British ones as compared to the American ones. Not to say that I didn't like them, but the bands that I really enjoyed the most were like Deep Purple, Rainbow, White Snake, UFO. Ozzy, Sabbath, um, and of course I did love Aerosmith and Boston and a lot of bands like that as well. But those are the ones that kind of inspired me. Now after '89, and '89 is kind of when the hair band movements started running out of gas,
Mm.
and LA was almost dead. You know, there were some articles that came out in some magazines just saying, the LA hairband movement is dead. You know, record companies weren't signing them anymore. And the next thing hadn't quite happened yet. There was kind of the rise of the funk metal bands like the Primus and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They really started to kind of take center stage. And then Seattle hadn't quite come into the mainstream yet, even though even though their music was starting to get around, like the Nirvanas and the Stone Temple Pilots and Mother Love Bone and the bands like that. I wasn't really particularly into the Seattle stuff. The band that I was in after the hair bands, we were kind of like a cross between the Cult and the Cure, sort of a little Bowie-ish, a little bit of Bauhaus in there. And that was the band that I think I was the most successful with. We were called Orange Seed Parade, and we wore a whole lot of black and a whole lot of black makeup, and our hair had a whole lot of black dye in it. And yeah, we were kind of gothic looking. And we had a good album that we put out that I was always proud of. And we had some pretty interesting stories. You know, we were supposed to film an episode of a local cable TV show, like a local cable show, was it cable access or something, and we go down for the filming of the show, and the bar that we played in was called The Rage. It was in downtown Baltimore, and it was right around the corner from the Block. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the Block, but the Block is the it was the red light district where claim to fame, and it was, you know, from the 50s. They started out as like, that's where all the burlesque houses were, all the way through, and now they were just pretty much the conventional strip clubs. So, you know, a lot of the girls used to come see the bands, and apparently one of the girls, you know, had something for our singer, and he wasn't dating her or anything like that, but apparently he was at her apartment with a bunch of other people, and after he left and a bunch of people left the apartment, the girl was murdered. And yeah, so we showed up for the filming of this show, and there's Baltimore City's finest waiting for us, you know, with a whole bunch of questions. Needless to say, we ended up having to postpone the filming. And they ended up catching the guy about a year later that actually did it. But we all had to go to the police station and get questioned, and I had nothing to do with that. But they were asking us if we were like satanic, and because we wore all the black, and we and you guys are kind of gloom and doom. Are you guys Satanists and all that? I was like, no. Look, I'm a business major. This sells. I'm trying to make money. And I said, and you can call me a poser, you can call me whatever you want, but that was the name of the game. I wanted to make something happen back then. And, so it turned out they found the guy that did it. And what had happened is the girl had a roommate or a close friend, and she was in the process of talking this girl into breaking up with this guy because he was abusive or something. And so after everybody left, he went into the apartment and killed her, strangled her with a phone cord. So we had that to deal with, and but those were some pretty crazy times. The late '80s, early '90s scene. I mean, there were so many great clubs to play in Baltimore. The only problem with playing in Baltimore, and we used to play DC and New York as well. Baltimore had plenty of places. There was a lot of extremely talented people, but the problem was like a lot of these bands would not know original if it bit them on the rear end. They were sort of carriers on of trends as compared to people just kind of stepping out and doing their own thing. Not to say that there weren't, but it wasn't a whole scene of it doing it. That was more the exception than the rule from my observations. I mean, there were definitely some excellent bands that have come out of Maryland and come out of Baltimore, and ones that came from nearby regions that ended up becoming pretty big, like Crack the Sky and the Ravens and Face Dancer, and there was Mystic Force. There was, what's the fella's name? I'm drawing a blank here, but there were people that did get record contracts and get signed and do fairly well. But because of that, because of the a trend-setting scene, we didn't have a big movement come out of that area. We had the like the LA scene or the Seattle scene or anything like that. But it was a fun place to play. I had a lot of fond memories of going down to Washington, D.C. There were some really great clubs down there, like the 930 Club that we did. 15-Minute Club was a place. I don't know how long it lasted, but I have a really neat memory of that. We were playing there one night, and it was very, very, very artsy. And the thing that I really liked about it that I thought was cool was that we were up there playing, and instead of a light show or anything, there was a gigantic white wall behind us. And they had projectors, and they showed that old cartoon sci-fi movie called The Fantastic Planet. That was our background in our light show the whole time. So
Nice.
before we played, I walked out, and the club was at 15th and K. So I walked outside to go back to my van because I think I left my tuner or something out there that I had to go get. And it was just starting to get dark. So I walked outside, and like every 10 feet was a lady of the evening, and they were dressed like the stereotypical movie lady of the evening with the fishnets and the very, very short skirts. And, standing around every so often were their pimps. And I thought I'd walked into a 1970s movie by the way they were dressed. I mean, they had the big hats and the big velvet jackets on with the big furry lapels and the fur coats and the and the platform shoes. And I was looking around for cameras. I thought, what in the world is going on here? Did I walk into a movie set and I didn't know it, or they filmed? No, that's the way it was there. And then a limo would pull up, a couple girls would get in, a couple girls would get out. They'd hand the guy their money, and then they wait for the next one. And I'm just like, wow, look at this. And we played there. We did, the 930 Club. CBGB's was a great place to play in New York. That was a legendary club. And the bathroom was every bit as disgusting as they made it in the movie. God, it was bad. The stage had a couple of loose boards, and you had to watch where you step. I was over on the, I guess you would say, stage left, audience right. I had to watch where I stepped because I stepped in like the stage dipped a little bit, so I had to watch where I was stepping and everything. But I have to say the people were very nice. There was a lady named Louise that booked us, and this was like in late 90, early 91 when we were doing that, playing up there. And I have to say they treated us very, very well. We were kind of nervous going all the way to New York City for the first time. And we sure as hell weren't used to driving in it. But then again, driving in DC kind of broke us in for that, because I think DC's worse than New York if you've ever driven in them. If I had my choice, I'd drive with me.
Yeah, I don't know that I disagree, especially now, in the way it's going. But yeah, I love these stories, and man, that's such a awesome to look back on that and all those places you played, especially legendary CBGB, and
Yeah.
it's just fantastic. So I want, with going forward with the podcast, what are your plans? Where do you want to where are you looking to go in the future? Like, do you have any big plans for it, or what are you gonna do with it?
Well, I want to still continue to do both local and national with my guests, because even with the Jack O'Hallorans and the Steve Stoliers and the Quasman, Sam Quasman, and all those other fellas, I still have been doing episodes with local folks, with regional folks, having it for anybody who's noteworthy and has interesting stories. I want to continue to be a harbor of sanity. When people are watching the news and getting upset about this, that, and the other thing. Almost something, I mean, I guess this doesn't really happen nowadays, but almost something where somebody could turn on my podcast like a Norman Rockwell painting, and the whole family sitting around like they're listening to the Lone Ranger or Jack Benny or something like that. I was thinking about, if our venues don't open up sooner or later, I was thinking about writing some actual radio shows
Nice.
that I could use my actors and make, we could do like a scripted show, like a story or like a comedy story or something like that.
Very cool.
I thought about that. And again, just having it as something to check in, something, just to be an escape for people, something that people can enjoy, and something for everybody. Something for everybody, no matter who you are, no matter what your political leanings are, no matter whatever, you are, everybody is welcome to come enjoy the show. And that's kind of the direction I'm taking in, something where we can all just sit down and relax and enjoy, that's really what I want it to be. And continue to have people on with interesting stories and help people get exposure and, that whole thing.
You know what? I would love to. I would love to see you do a radio show. You should do that.
Well, thank you. That would be a lot.
I think it would be a great time. And there's so many, and not you have your actors with Fowl Players, but if you ever need extra, there's so many around here, and especially in this area. Love to throw your way. I think they'd be interested in doing it. So
yeah, you're not that far from me, are you? I think you're.
I'm Winchester, Virginia.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're not far at all. You're not. You're just past DC, I think, right? No, actually,
yeah.
No, you are. You're near Harper's Ferry, aren't you?
It's about 30 minutes from Harper's Ferry.
I'm about for that.
Yeah.
We used to have a property. When I first started performing with Otter, my family, my mother and my siblings and I had a cabin in West Virginia. I used to stay there overnight. Sometimes if traffic was bad on 70, I would get off and shoot through Harper's Ferry out that way. And I'd always see the signs for where you're from, so I knew it wasn't too far from there. And
yeah, I was just out in your area not too long ago, Frederick.
Yeah. Yep. And I live now, I grew up in Baltimore, but I live in Perryville, which is actually, it's right near the Delaware line. Kind of near where Delaware, Maryland, and Pennsylvania meets. That's kind of near where I am now. But yep, in Perryville, thus the Fowl Players of Perryville.
Well, I love it, and I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about this.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed your stories, and I wish you continued success with your show. Like I said, it's a good show, and everything. And we're gonna have all the links and such down in the description below. But is there anything that you want to promote coming up right now, or your social media or anything going forward?
Well, let me see here. I am on. I'm still learning how to use Twitter.
It can be a good ally, but I get it. Trust me.
I've always used Facebook. You can find me at Michael Spedden on Facebook. You can find the Fowl Players of Perryville page on Facebook. You can find Fowl Players Radio on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at Spedden Michael on Twitter, and you can also find me at Fowl_radio. You can find the podcast on, let me look at the list here. Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castro, Castbox, Barbecue Shrimp, Boiled Shrimp, just about any of those. And also the main website for my podcast is, it's https://foulplayersradio.buzzsprout.com. I also have a website for my murder mystery group, the Fowl Players of Perryville.com, and I believe the podcast does feed to that as well. So there's a lot of different places to see and find out about, again, the murder mystery group, a whole lot of nothing's going on right now, but the podcast has been very active, and I hope you tune in and hear something you enjoy.
Absolutely, and like I said, I'm going to hold you to. I want to see some radio shows. I think those would be really cool.
Thank you.
And everybody, these links are in the description, so make sure you go check that out. And I appreciate Mr. Michael Spedden for being on the show. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you all for watching.
Well, thank you all for having me. I enjoyed being here.
Yeah, and always go check out this show and more over on thescenesnobs.com. We have 4 live shows, 4 nights a week, and plenty of other pre-recorded shows. So I don't have to tell you guys, go and check it out on thescenesnobs.com. But thank you again to my guest, Michael Spedden. Go check out Fowl Players Radio right now in the descriptions below. All right. Thanks, everybody. You have a great day.
This one's gonna be a hard one. No pun intended.
Down the catwalk every day, and maybe someday we'll go all the way.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. A sequel was all but inevitable, really.
Hello, internet fans. Do you want to learn about horror movies that you never knew existed? Do you miss the video store but not the late fees? Then join us at 3B Video, where we talk about stuff like this, and this, and this. If you'll excuse me, I've got some videotapes to return. You like Huey Lewis in the news?